So I've been AFK from this channel for a while, and a lot of that is because I'm having a lot of trouble actually enjoying League because of a very large number of reasons, and I thought I should make a video to address the things I think Riot needs fixing, so that me and a lot of other people who have been playing for a long time will stick around. Right now I'm feeling myself drifting back to Diablo 3, and well, fuck, that shit is really addicting. So first off, they have a really ineffective way to introduce new players to the game. The system is just absolutely atrocious. I have a lot of friends who I would love to play League with, but they don't play, and the system that Riot currently has implemented to teach people, it's garbage. It took me 2 whole seasons to get good enough at the game that I don't consider myself 100% garbage, and that was back when most people sucked at the game anyway. I'm not going to make my friends undergo 3 years of hell just to play a game with me, especially since it's getting more complicated all the time, which leads me straight into my next point, which is that champions that Riot is releasing these days are just way more complicated than they need to be. If you just look at Jin's passive or Kindred's whole kit, really, you'll know I'm not kidding. Hell, even a relaunched Sivir's kit from 2013, was it? Wasn't as complicated as the last, 5, 6, 10, somewhere in that ballpark. 8, maybe? Complicated champion kits have a lot of common issues, such as being difficult to learn how to counterplay, and difficult to balance. So, yeah, it's an issue. And with these complicated champions, there are also complicated balance issues as a result. So we end up with longer, more complicated patch notes as well. This is only being more and more common because Riot is also trying to constantly alter the game to keep it fresh. This is a bit of a complicated issue in my opinion, because not only do the players have to keep up with the patches in order to play well, but when the patches are smaller, they're often just large number fixes to keep big balance problems in check until Riot comes up with a better solution. I'm a strong believer that the game meta does need to be constantly changing, but the more complicated patches are, the more difficult it can be to track. I don't know about everyone else, but I work a full-time job, I bike pretty much everywhere I go for the most part, and I do a lot of housework already. Reading the patch notes to 1 or maybe 3 games I play is already stretching my time constraints a bit. I'm not going to take the time to chart out the changes in any fancy way to make predictions on what I think I should be banning, and because of that I can't bring myself to play ranked anymore, because I don't know what's happening well enough to trust that I will play well. So we sort of have a spectrum with big, complicated changes at one end, and a little number tweaks at the other, right? So as we move towards more complicated changes, it gets more difficult to keep up. And as we move towards the smaller fixes, it is less helpful for the game health as a whole, which is also not a good thing. I know Riot wants to keep the game fresh and interesting, but come the fuck on. New champions and number fixes are already shifting the meta quite extensively. I don't think we need to constantly overhaul the entire objective system and divide the dragon into 5 types or add a fucking dead man's plate passive for 20 minutes of the game to the Rift Herald Club. That's just silly. Now, the next thing is kind of a big issue, and it's the one that really started this whole thing spiraling downhill for me in the first place, and that was just the reworks in general that have been happening for the past 2 years or so. Maybe a year and a half, somewhere in there. But let that sink in for a sec. I know that makes me seem like kind of a nostalgic douchebag. I'd tell you that isn't true, but that'd be partially a lie. I was very happy with the game's state in Season 3 and 4. I think Season 4 was when I started to get frustrated with the game, or maybe that was just Evelyn, thanks to the pink port changes. Hurrah, I just love that they made them visible. Anyway, but seriously, the reworks, the Darius rework was alright, I guess. I was okay with the Caitlyn Season 6 changes, but because she still feels like her old self, but a bit better rounded. The Skarner rework was okay after the serious nerfs, but let's not forget the serious win rate on release. I want to say it was the highest one in Riot's history, which is kind of ridiculous. It was like 73 or something absurd. And then, oh my fucking god, the pretty much all the other ADC, or marksman, whatever, changes that happened in Season 6, Graves and Quinn, for example. The Graves one was the big one out of those, I think, just because I was so used to being able to either play him as a traditional AD carry, or as a more of an AD caster, which, to me, was a lot of fun. You went, like, Black Cleaver, Bloodthirster, and Bork, and then after that you didn't need any more attack speed, you just built straight cooldown reduction, and your E was either on cooldown and you were the buff was either active and on cooldown, or it was up so you could dash again and bring it back up again, as long as you were constantly auto-attacking. Then there's like the Gangplank rework, the Fedora rework, and the Garen rework. What the actual fuck were all of those? But the one that seriously got my goat though, that was the Mordekaiser rework. Mordekaiser, I can English. Mordekaiser rework. So first of all, he gets Dragon after level 6. Okay, that's fair and balanced. He gets increased XP when sharing XP with allies, which shifted his position generally to be bot lane. Yeah, sure, thanks. His Q can do triple damage, not anymore granted, but it's still pretty disgusting. I was happy with the changes to his passive because they enhanced his general can't touch this sort of attitude in lane, and his double healing was okay too, but there were other changes that make him best in the bottom lane, and the fact that Spellvamp has now been removed almost completely. I say almost because Gunblade and Spellvamp Quint still exist, last I checked. I just can't play him as a drain tank top lane bruiser anymore, and that was what I loved about him. I'd been playing him a lot before the Champion Mastery system was released, and when that rework happened, I was close to getting Mastery 5 too, but after the rework I just can't bring myself to play him. It requires too much change to his old playstyle for it to be okay, and I just can't handle it. It pisses me off. It just doesn't feel right at all. It doesn't feel like Mordekaiser anymore. So basically, I think the biggest issues with Riot's changes and general game state right now are that they have a terrible system to introduce players to the game. They're releasing overly complicated champions, which only inflates the already complicated patch notes, which also need to be toned down and taken at a steadier pace. And their rework system's earliest changes started to improve, but their earliest reworks like Evelyn and Mordekaiser need to be redone, partially reverted. I don't know what the solution to these problems is, but the problems exist and they need to be addressed. A lot of even old professional players are quitting League because of these issues, so Riot shouldn't ignore them. I'm not even sure they can afford to ignore them. I hope these are some issues that I brought up that other people can identify with, because I've been struggling with these problems for a while. So I just wanted to get my thoughts out there, and hopefully it'll strike a chord with some people, and hopefully bring some changes. I'm not counting on it, but I'm hoping, because I'm very frustrated with the game, and I can only play so much of it before I have to go and play a different game, because it's just that frustrating right now. So, anyway, I hope that tells you guys a little bit of what's kind of going through my head right now with League. As always, stay beautiful, don't set fire to anything I wouldn't, and you guys will hear from me next time.